Hey everyone, welcome to our home buyer seminar. We're going to go ahead and get started shortly. We're just doing a couple of housekeeping things right here. We should get started in about 2 minutes. In the meantime, you can go ahead and check your email for a link to our home buyer packet that we sent out. If you don't have that link, then you can just send us a message in the chat and we'll get you set up and have that delivered to your email shortly. It's not necessarily a read along or a follow along, but it is just some material that you can have so that way you can kind of take notes along the process. So we'll get started shortly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Constance Cunningham. I am the Director of Client Care here with the Community Warriors Real Estate Team. I'm so excited that we're able to share this information with you today. We do have a few housekeeping tips to make sure that this is the best experience for everyone. First, please make sure your mics are muted. We want everyone to be able to hear everything that we have to share today. Feel free to use your chat box to ask any questions. We will also share questions from our Facebook Live page as well. We would love to see your beautiful faces, so we encourage those who have cameras to turn them on. Last, be sure to review the buyer presentation that was sent via email. We also have some other information in that email as well. Thank you guys for joining us today.
All right.
All right. Again, welcome everyone. If you don't know who I am, I'm Roland Arquebrasos, the other co-team lead here at the Community Warriors Real Estate Team, and I sell houses. So it's great to have you guys here in the Zoom as well as everyone on Facebook Live, because it's obvious by your presence that you're eager to learn about buying your next home, your first home, and our goal is to answer any of those questions you may have. So it's an interactive experience. Feel free to hop into the chat box. It's a wonderful step you guys are taking toward achieving the ultimate dream of owning your next home. You'll be laying that foundation for your financial future and setting the tone for your personal lifestyle. So let's get started.
Fantastic. And my name is Kai Cockram. I am the president of Luxury Home Consulting here with the Community Warriors Real Estate Team. On behalf of the Community Warriors, we want to just once again thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this virtual home buying seminar. Today, you're going to be learning all of the ins and outs of the home buying process from start to finish. Whether that be your first home or an investment property, your next home, or luxury property, they're all the same. The numbers are just a little bit bigger in some places. So let's tell you a little bit more about our team. Again, we are the Community Warriors Real Estate Team, and we work here at Keller Williams Houston Central. This is our lovely current office. We will be moving shortly. Cannot wait for that. So we have a little bit more room and it's a lot cleaner in the background. Our team has been in production since 2017, and we have helped well over 100 families purchase their homes and well over 100 more families sell their homes. Our passion is helping you get what you want when you need it in the time frame that you need that, And we'd like to save you as much money as possible along the way. So RK, I think we had a few questions before we started. If you want to answer a couple of those.
Yes, yes. So just a reminder, everyone, Q&A is open. So come into the chat box, ask any questions throughout the whole process. We'll be going over quite a bit. I think, Constance, we have one right now, right?
Yes. Someone asks, how much should I have saved?
Good question. It's actually one of the first things we'll be going over, right?
Mhm.
Um, It depends. We have people that save between 3% to 20% for a down payment, and it's really tough to tell. But the most important thing is to have the conversation first and see where you would fall within that spectrum, the 3 to 20%. So again, feel free to ask any other questions, and we'll answer them at the appropriate time.
All right, so let's get straight into it.
Yes. So again, there are going to be these 5 things that we're going to be talking about: the fear versus facts about buying a house, the reality of today's market, the 6 simple steps to home ownership, financing, and the final next steps. Kai, you want to get started?
Sure. So whenever we look at fears and facts about buying a home, these are a couple of things that we constantly hear. I probably get all of these questions every single day on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm grateful that you guys are responding to my little handwritten notes, because some people write me letters with the questions too. And I'm like, that's interesting. Just give me a call. But a lot of people will say, that I can't afford to buy a home right now. That is probably the biggest thing that we get. Honestly, until you do the math, you don't really know what you can and cannot afford. That's like telling yourself that you're sick before you go into the doctor. If you're currently paying rent, then you may be able to buy a home. You'd be putting that rent that you're currently paying towards paying off your home, not someone else's, because effectively that's what you're doing whenever you're paying rent. In addition, there are a lot of tax savings that can often make up most of the differences between renting and mortgage payments. Even with the current elections, a lot of people that's lots of buzzwords, tax savings on houses. For most of you, that won't even affect you. So you're still going to get those same great tax savings. We'll do the math on that later on in the presentation. Another thing that we get is, I should wait until the market gets better. That is a hilarious thing. There's never a bad time to buy the right home, because the entire market fluctuates in different areas, especially in our city, as big as it is. Our job is to help you find a good buy and ensure that you have the financial ability to hold on to it. Every market has different little caveats. It may just be a little bit harder to find, or a little bit easier to find, but that's our job to help you navigate that. Over time, the investment that you put into your home grows no matter what the market. Another thing that we hear, I don't have any money for the down payment, or I don't have enough money for the down payment. There are actually a variety of down payment options available to you. There are loan programs for first time buyers with down payments as low as 5%, even less. Like RK was saying, we've seen down payments as low as 3%. We've seen down payments as low as $0. So it just depends. I mean, let us guide you on the direction of where you should go with that, along with your lender. Thinking you have to wait to save up for a down payment might actually cost you more money, due to delaying the financial benefits of owning a home. Just because you're saving for your down payment, the market around you is still moving. Prices are still increasing. So while you may be telling yourself today, I need to save X amount of money, by the time you get to that point, well, if the prices have gone up, then that ends up offsetting itself. And now you just end up having to save more, and it becomes a cycle. So the best time is always once you've spoken with your realtor. I can't afford to buy my dream home. I think Michael is in here. So everyone that has been around me for the last few years has known, even honestly, since I was like in high school, it has always been my goal, my dream, to buy a minimum, over in either Austin or somewhere out of state, $1.4 million home. That's my starting, is what I want to do. But I know in order to get there, I have to buy that $275,000 house today, which is a very inexpensive mortgage payment, in order to get there later. The best way to get closer to buying your dream home is buying your first home. Once you buy that first home, you're basically using it as a forced savings plan, because every time that you're paying into that commitment, it's going to return in terms of the equity and appreciation. Another fear that people have is the fear of commitment, especially first time home buyers. It is a huge commitment. And remember that you're never without a way out. If it doesn't end up being right for you, you can always just sell the house, or you can rent that house out and go lease something else and have someone else pay off the mortgage. We have several clients that do that, where they say, well, hey, I don't really want to live in here anymore. I found something else. Maybe you found a cool apartment community, but now you have this house. Well, let's get that leased out so we can cover the mortgage. And then you're basically having someone else build that equity for you while you go live wherever you want. So what other questions have anyone heard? Do we have any questions in either of the chat pools, Constance?
Yes. So someone asked, they want to buy a house, but they're stuck in their lease. Is there anything they can do?
Yes, that is one of our favorite things. There's actually a lot of new construction programs where they will buy you out of your lease. Also, RK and I are very good negotiators. We take that with a lot of pride. We've saved people thousands of dollars on their homes. So a lot of times we can negotiate into your sales contract a way for the seller to actually cover that buyout price, whether that be directly, or sometimes you will get that in the form of credits, meaning you will get yourself out and then they will reimburse you for that at closing. So another thing that we get is, I can't afford to buy a home because my credit isn't very good. Well, there are always options for that. Shame doesn't bring you any closer to owning a home or having good credit. There are typically two types of credit challenges that most people face. They either have poor credit history or no credit history, meaning you don't have any credit cards, you don't have a car note, you don't have anything on there, you just use debit and cash all the time, which is actually not always the best thing. But both of those have solutions. Even if you have poor credit, you should still talk to a lender. You might be pleasantly surprised with the outcome. Also, a good loan officer, like any of the three that we will talk about today that we work with, they're all mortgage specialists, and they will be able to help you resolve those credit challenges as you go. This is another one of those situations where, unfortunately, credit.com does not give you the full scope of what your credit looks like. Only a mortgage lender can do that for you. So the only way you're going to be able to get started in knowing is by going to communicate with those people first. That's unfortunately, this is how it is, but fortunately, they're there to help you out. I should wait until I'm certain of my domestic futures. People often want to wait until they're married, partnered, or when they're ready to have children to buy a home. You definitely don't need two incomes to buy a home. And there's also lots of ways that you can kind of sneak around different things in order to, save on the homes that you're getting when you are two separate people. So if you buy a home now that your future partner doesn't like, then you'll just be entering that relationship with equity. Equity will allow you to get choosier, which I hate that word. It will allow you to have more options in buying the home that's right for you and your family later on. Thanks, guys, for letting me leave that in the slide.
I wrote it.
That's a very pop buy type of thing. RK likes to say something like that. Buying a home sometimes seems like it's way too complicated. Well, first of all, no one is ever going to tell you that buying a home is easy, because it isn't. If someone tells you that, they're straight up lying to you. It is not an easy process, but that's why you work with a professional like us to make that process very seamless. We have several clients where we've only ever seen them once. I have luxury clients that I've only ever seen one time, where we managed to get through the entire sales process seamlessly. And all he had to do was click a few things and then show up to the closing all the way at the end. So from your real estate agent to your mortgage officer, we are all experts that are here to absorb most of that complexity, simplifying the process for you. The most difficult part, honestly, is going to be finding the home and then just getting a handful of documents necessary that you probably already have set aside. And then finally, this one is probably the biggest thing that we are facing with right now, especially in our country and economy. Should I pay off my student loans before buying a home? Student loan debt does not prevent you from buying a house. That is a very common misconception that a lot of people have. If you are making your payments on time and you're earning and preserving your credit, then you're probably going to be in a situation where you can purchase a home. If you're having trouble making those payments, student loan services can be very good at finding plans for you to achieve those goals. As much as we don't like student loans, they are having programs that are out there to be able to assist you with making those payments or lowering the monthly payment so that you can qualify for that home. Um, Putting off buying a home is putting off wealth building, which in America, real estate is the largest way to gain wealth to this day. So we want to make sure that you're well educated in a way, in a manner that will put you in that direction. So we're going to go over why you should buy your home now. So there's really three main little aspects here. The first one being home ownership is I love this quote, is the best accidental investment, and with very little knowledge of investments can be the best intentional investment. Our job as a team is to help you understand these factors that affect your investment and make it intentional. We will go into more detail about this throughout the session because we love the word investment. We love wealth building. RK smiles every time he hears that. We want to be there with you so that you can build your wealth, especially if you're young, because this is a fantastic time to purchase. And the reason we say that is interest rates are continuing to remain low. Some of you that are on the stream with us today, this may not be your first home. You may have had a home for several years. If any of you were here in the last 45 years, you'll know that 30-year fixed mortgage rates used to range from 18.63% in the 80s all the way to 3.31% in 2012. That is a huge drop. And in the last 5 years, rates have remained low, relatively low, around 3.5 to 4% in range. And we're actually seeing even lower than that. Before we even made this slideshow, rates fell even further. But there is no guarantee that they're going to stay that way. Several of you rent apartments, and you know that when you're searching for an apartment, it's very difficult for them to give you the amount that the rent is going to cost for the next few days because it fluctuates every day. That's just like how the mortgage market works. So just because you see a 3.5% rate today doesn't mean it will be that tomorrow. So it's always the best time to buy when you think you're ready. Equity is the value in your home. That's the next section that we'll go over, which can grow every year. This diagram that we have here shows how over the span of 30 years, equity in the home can increase from $15,000 to $486,000. Most people don't stay the entire 30 years, but we will tell you in even just 5 years, you're getting a huge boost into equity in some areas of the city, and we'll help you navigate that. This happens with equity buildup, which is a combination of appreciation and debt paydown. Your home value can increase. This is called appreciation. If any of you have cars, or any of you have ever sold cars or worked with anyone that has, then you know that those depreciate the moment you start that engine the first time and you drive it off the lot. Whereas your houses, the moment you step onto the lot and you start moving things in, time progressing, those houses appreciate. Your loan amount decreases as you pay it off. It does not increase. This is debt pay down. Buying your first home is an emotional decision for sure. A lot of people like to, compare the two things, commercial real estate and residential. Commercial is obviously very strict, very by the numbers. Home ownership is not. It is, after all, where the heart is. So we understand that it might take you a little bit of time to make that final decision on which home you want to go to. A home does represent your personal taste and provides a haven of stability and security for both you and your loved ones. So it's important to make sure that you're going to get something that's going to reflect you, because the home ownership really is your part of the ownership of the house. Don't delay buying your first home because some of those misconceptions we read earlier. Because every month you wait could have increased interest rates, and we can tell you we are enjoying home prices right now because they are going up. So you do want to make sure that you're riding that wave of affordability with the interest rates being as low as they are. Now we want to look at principal and interest. And I know this is a lot of information, and that's okay because this whole presentation is going to be recorded. So you will be able to get this later on. Another interesting fact about the cost of owning a home is based on research that has been conducted by Keller Williams Realty International. That is our huge brokerage that we work with. They are the largest brokerage in the country. In actually, no, we just became the first largest country or brokerage in the world by agent count and volume sold. So that's nice too. Our research and development department has shown that historically families are spending about 21%, 21.6% of their household budget paying the mortgage in principal and interest. Today, that number has dropped all the way to 15.2% of your total family budget. That's about 6.4% less. So calculate what your total income is and then multiply that out by 15.2%. And that's about how much people are, spending on their properties. And unless you're making like $100 a month, you are definitely going to be able to purchase a home. So this is a slide that we get a lot of inquiries on, for sure. Owning versus renting. Why pay rent when you can own? Well, if you look at a 30-year fixed mortgage, keep in mind a lot of people don't stay the entire 30 years, and that's okay. They end up selling that property to get that equity out. So if you were paying for a mortgage that was on a $250,000 home and you made monthly payments of about $1,200, which is normal. I know a lot of people are like, what? That's the mortgage payment. That's how little mortgage is compared to your rent. You're paying about $435,000 in mortgage and interest payments over the life of the loan. Now, don't panic. I know a lot of people are thinking that's a high number. Again, about 76% of people do not stay in the home the entire 30 years. However, after 30 years of appreciation, you own that house with an appreciated value of potentially nearly $600,000. That's a 3% annual appreciation, which in Houston, some markets are much higher than others. So we'll help you navigate that. So be mindful of local conditions. Compare that to renting or to paying $1,200 per month in rent, which that's pretty low compared to what most of you are paying over 30 years. Even if your landlord improperly never raised rent, which is extremely unlikely, you would be spending $432,000 in own nothing. So you get all the way to the end of your lease for 30 years and you have nothing to show for it. That's wealth building negative. So that's going in the opposite direction of where we want to take you. So RK, tell us a little bit about why people might want to hold off buying.
Yes, there actually are reasons. It's a lot of reasons to buy, but there honestly are some reasons not to buy. Y'all thought this was a big pitch.
I know.
No, I mean, honestly, we want to come off as consultants at the end of it, as resources. So we don't want to guide anyone to the wrong direction if it's not the best financial decision. So there are four main reasons that we consider to be one to hold off on buying a home. Now, the first one is changing jobs quite often. So understanding whether you have job security in your new position right now, as well as moving companies pretty often. If you do that, this does affect your ability to get a loan because lenders are going to want 2 years of employment records with one company. It's not always going to be that way. So it's important for us to have the conversation about that and your lender whenever you decide on them. Now, the second reason that you might have to hold off on buying a home are financial issues. So your credit score, not having enough down payment, having too much debt. Again, these things affect your ability to get a loan. However, we do have great programs that would be perfect for this scenario. It just may need to take some time, like credit repair or down payment assistance or creating a budget with us and the rest of your consultants on your team. Now, another reason that you wouldn't want to buy a house is the homes that you're interested in or planning to move to might be a little bit out of your budget. When your choices are to buy or out of your budget, you don't want to end up spending all of your money on mortgage payments. Sometimes you may even be approved for that amount. However, just think about having to just cash every check going straight to your home. It'll affect your lifestyle, and we will have that conversation up front if it's the right decision. Now, the last reason we wouldn't want to buy a home so quickly is short-term home ownership. So let's say you're planning on being in Houston for the next 6 months or the next year, you're here on a contract. You don't really always want to buy a home and sell it that quickly. Usually we like to recommend close to at least 2 years because you have to consider one thing. You need to build up equity and you need to have the home appreciate to turn a profit on it. It's going to take about 7.5% of your sales price when you sell your home uh, to be credited towards commissions, closing costs. So there might not be enough in there. Now, another thing that we can do for this last scenario is turn your home into a rental. Kai said, my eyes light up whenever we talk about investments because truly, um, it's never the worst option if you're looking at short-term home ownership because you can turn that into a rental and then wait till that equity starts to build up. Notice that one thing that isn't here is the current public health situation with COVID-19. Now, it's not a reason to hold off on buying a home. Now, there are some certain cases, however, there are ways to be as safe and secure as possible by following the proper guidelines and protocols and wearing PPE like we do here on our team, as well as even virtual tours. We, like Kai has mentioned, have sold some homes sight unseen this year, which is crazy to think about the new world we're living in. But that's not a reason. These are things that we could talk about. So let's go over to the realities of today's market. There's three things that I wanted to talk about. Now, the first one is that if it's a buyer or seller's market, the next one is that home prices and the interest rates. You'll see that in today's market, it's a seller's market. What does that mean? It's a simple measure of supply and demand. How many houses are available for sale at any given time versus the number of buyers in today's market. Our market currently favors sellers. What this means is that supply is limited, demand is really high, sellers are most of the time in the driver's seat, and buyers are coming in at a little bit of higher prices and even over list price sometimes. Hiring us in a seller's market is very important because there may be multiple offers that we'll have to navigate, as well as making sure that your offer comes to the top of the page and that you're winning that dream home of yours. Now, let's talk about the average home price. You can see that that number is 269,000. Last year, I believe it was around the 250s, and every year, average home prices still continue to climb. So, like I mentioned, it's a great opportunity to take advantage of affordability, right? As that number continues to climb in Houston, as our market area starts to grow more. One thing that offsets those two numbers that may seem a little scary is the interest rates. So, just last year, I believe interest rates were close to 3.5, 4%. Just pulling the numbers now, we are just under 3%, and we have actually gotten people lower than that interest rate. So it is a great time to offset it being a seller's market because those monthly payments are going to look so much nicer under 3%. So let's go over the 6 easy steps to home ownership. Now, first, you're going to hire your agent. Let's just scratch that step right there. You've already chosen us, right? No, but truly hiring your agent. Now, number 2 is securing your pre-approved financing. 3, finding your house. 4, making an offer and negotiating, getting that home inspected, and then finally closing and becoming a homeowner. Now, there is a step 0 when it comes to working with us, just so that you can prepare, and that is to download the Keller Williams and the HAR app. Once you sign on with us, we'll have a detailed breakdown of all the technology we use to save you time through your search. Not only does our app have some of the best search features on the market, it ensures that you have us in your pocket as you navigate through all 6 of these steps whenever you're buying a house.
Our app makes achieving your homeownership goals more accessible than ever before. It is much more than just a search. It's an industry-leading features will prepare you to handle and enjoy the entire journey. This link was sent to you via email. If you did not get it, please reach out in the chat so we can get that over to you.
All right, a little plug for our app. So next step, first step 1, that was step 0. Step 1 is hiring your agent. At before we get into everything, I know the chat has been pretty active. So you guys came here to get your questions answered. So again, if there are any key issues that you'd like to hear about that we haven't discussed just yet, uh, be sure to write that in the chat. Everyone here on Zoom and on Facebook, and we'll be sure to answer them. All right. Yes. So step one, just making sure. Hiring your agent. Now, typically there are two real estate agents involved, not like two, me and Kai, but there's the listing side and then there's the buyer side. In our case, you do have the whole team backing you. When you choose your agent, do your research. Ask about their experience, their knowledge on the market, and their negotiation skill. Find one that suits your needs and personality, not just because they're your friend. Um, Sometimes in our case, it may not be a good fit for a buyer, and that's okay. It's okay to also interview more than one person before making your selection. It's not going to hurt my feelings. It's not going to hurt Kai's feelings, but you got to do what's best for you. Now, if you just decide to work with us and we've earned your trust and provided value to allow you to choose us as your team, this is the commitment that we'll make to you. Our goal is to get you from the starting line to crossing the threshold of that new home with little to no hassles. And the good news, whenever you choose to hire us, our services are paid by the seller. So it really doesn't cost you at the end of it. So might as well make that decision, right? Now, whenever you do make that decision, that handshake agreement, the next step is going to be our buyer's representation agreement that we will go over before signing. This is more like a loyalty agreement between the two of us, so that way we can serve you appropriately and set mutual expectations that we're going to make sure that you get the house of your dreams, uh, and that we're working exclusively together. Now, Kai, when's uh, when's the best time to hire your agent?
Yes. So the best time to hire your agent depends on the timeline of which you're trying to buy a home. So we're going to kind of go over the timeline of buying a home. And if there's anything that we talked about today that led you to decide that you are not ready, that's okay. There are actions you can take today that are going to bring you closer to becoming a homeowner. So if you're concerned about your credit history, there are a number of nonprofit credit consulting and debt advice resources that can help you formulate a concrete plan to get where you want to be. If you want to save for your down payment, while remembering that you may not need as much money down as you think you need or as you previously thought you needed prior to this fantastic consultation today, um, budget for that as well. Be realistic about what's possible. Don't tell yourself you're going to save $120,000 if you only make $10,000 a year. That just doesn't make any sense. You'll never end up getting there. Um, and then we can help you prepare and figure out what you need to be on your budget. Part of our job is to be your local market expert. So we want to make sure that we're watching neighborhoods for you and with you, so that way you're ready to purchase. If we see any major fluctuations in the market, we'll always be sure to let you know. That way we can either move to another neighborhood, or we can move to an area that is going to be appreciating for you so you can recoup that investment later. So let's talk about walking through the timeline, beginning with when you need to move. Is there anyone out there whose lease is up and wants to let us know whenever they plan to move out? This means that your last lease payment is due at the end of, or that month that your rent is finished. Do we have anyone from the comments, Constance?
No, it doesn't like we have anyone from the comments,
Mhm.
but I do want to know if my lease is up in September,
Mhm.
where do I need to start?
So if your lease is up in September, then ideally, you would probably want to be in that new home by the middle to the end of September, because that last lease payment is going to be a rent payment will be due on the first of that month. So that would mean that you would need to close and take ownership prior to like the 15th day of September. So that way you have some time to move in. Fun fact, a lot of you don't realize your mortgage payments don't start on the day that you close on the home. You will already have prepaid one of those payments inside of one of your lender fees. So a lot of times you have a long gap between when you actually have to start paying. So even if you have like a month or so left on your lease, you might want to close a little bit earlier so that way you have time to transition into your new home so that you're not just frantically trying to move everything in. So that being said, if you want to be in your home by the end of September, uh, then you'll need to close on that property by around the end of August or the middle of September and take ownership by then, which means that you'll need to be under contract about 30 days before, because it takes about 30 to 45 days to close on a home. Um, while some lenders can do the transaction very quickly, you have to also keep in mind there is another side of the transaction, the seller side. They may not be ready to move in 10 days. So you need to wait about 30 to 45 days to actually close on the house, unless you're buying cash, then we can get you in there in like 5 days. So so that means that you'll want to start looking at properties about like 30 to 60 days prior to then. So remember, following along, if you need to be in, if you want the keys in your hand by the end of August, then you will need to have gone under contract by the beginning of July. I'm sorry, by the end of July, which means you will need to start searching for homes about 30 to 60 days prior, which will be in either June or May. That way you give yourself plenty of time to search the market and find homes that meet your criteria. Now, that also means that you're going to need to get pre-approved by May or June as well. You don't want to be waiting to get pre-approved until you find the house, because one, we can't find you a house if we don't know what you're approved for. Also, currently with the market the way that it is, no realtor is going to represent you if you're not pre-approved yet. They're not going to want to go and show you homes because we don't really know what you can actually afford. And then that being said, you'll want to prepare your finances starting now, because you should always be having your finances prepared. I like to tell people, once you get the house, as long as you can make the payment, then you're good to go. But in the beginning, you want to make sure that you're preparing everything leading up to then, because you're going to go into it with making sure that you're going to get approved for what you want. And then you're going to want to begin working with us today. As soon as you're ready to start purchasing your property or going along that process, even if it's a year from now, you want to reach out and talk to us so we can make sure you're on the right path. A lot of times people will do what we call, like financial WebMDing yourself. Don't do that. Do not go to the internet and just start searching all these different things. That's not how it works. You don't try to go perform financial surgery on yourself. Go get a professional to do that with you, or for you. So that way you're knocked out and asleep and just sign the contract. No, I'm kidding. So from hiring us to getting the keys in your hands, it takes approximately 3 to 3.5 months of time. And then there's like a little gray area of there. If you have interest in purchasing the home, meet with us with a consultation so that way we can, for free, give you a little bit of information on when you should actually get started. So then that next step would be securing your pre-approved financing. So there's a little bit of confusion between what it means to get a pre-approval and what it means to be pre-qualified. So we're going to review that here. Pre-qualification is basically just a conversation. It's not a formal or lengthy process. You're basically just on the phone with the lender or meeting them in person or on Zoom, however you choose to meet with them. And they're going to ask you just simple questions. Do you have a job? Do you already have a place of residence? Have you been in the United States for X amount of time? How much money do you have in your savings account or in your checking account that you want to put towards your home? But it is not a commitment from the lender. It's also just a rough estimate of how much you can borrow. We typically don't like pre-qualifications. Most people don't. Those are the little letters you get in the mail where it's like, congratulations, you're pre-qualified for $190,000. And then you apply and they're like, we actually can only approve you for $60,000. And you're like, oh crap. So your pre-approval is a formal application with the lender. This is going to review all of your financial documents, most of which can automatically be pulled by the lender. You don't really have to find a lot of things, a handful of things you will. It's a formal commitment from the lender as well. What that means is the lender is committing to you that this is how much money you will actually be able to afford. So when you have a pre-approval, you don't ever have to worry about, can I really afford this home? Yes, because trust me, that lender is not going to give you any money that they don't think you can pay back. And then it also states how much you can borrow and what rate. So this is going to give you an estimate of that rate. What is important to know is the rate that you receive on your pre-approval letter may not always be the exact rate that you're going to receive. It's typically lower. So sometimes you'll get a pre-approval rate that might say 4.5%. Don't freak out. They're just quoting you that just in case market fluctuations happen. That way they can make adjustments later. It also makes you a very strong buyer in a multiple offer situation. Most of you know that RK and I don't just help buyers, we also list lots of homes. When we get multiple offers on our properties, we immediately talk to the seller and tell them basically any of these people that are not pre-approved, you got to throw them out because those are not contracts that we can actually back and say we'll actually be able to purchase this home. So if you're waiting to get your pre-approval until you find the right home, you'll never find the right home because you don't know how much you can afford. Don't try to calculate it yourself. So then obviously that comes with choosing a lender. We have several approved lenders that we work with and we recommend, one of which is Keller Mortgage. You guys hear me post about them all the time. I love Keller Mortgage. They save you a lot of lender fees and closing costs. They also give you $1,000 towards your third party closing costs with qualifying loans, which most of you will qualify for those if you're getting approved by them. All of our recommendations specialize in first-time home buyers and move-up buyers as well. And two of our lenders actually specialize very well in jumbo loans also. So if you're looking to purchase a luxury home, you can also work with us with that as well. So all this means that you can confidently ensure that any of the lenders that we recommend to you will be able to make sure that they can verify your income, debt, and credit and help you determine how much you can afford with a realistic payment that you want. Um, all of these lenders also work backwards. So they don't start with just giving you the highest approval rating that you can get. They're going to ask you, what do you want to pay per month? If you tell them, hey, Kai, Jared, I want to make sure that I'm not paying any more than what I'm already paying for rent. Jared Herbofsky with CMG Financial, we love him. He is going to actually work backwards and say, okay, well, you're paying $2,400 now for rent. Let's try to get you into a mortgage where you're not paying any more than that. And maybe you're even paying less than that so that your living conditions and your lifestyle doesn't have to change. They're also going to educate you on different options for your loans, interest rates, down payment amounts, and other options as well. We also have Rich Bond with Cross Country Mortgage, who's right upstairs with us. RK also has a couple of other lenders that we work with that we'll be talking about shortly. So integrated with KW technology, Keller Mortgage, they also offer a swift, simplified experience that expedites the process so that you can move into your new home faster. They also make sure that they are I know. They're also available through with KW. They're exclusively through us. All of our loan partners can often match what they're doing as well. So we have an option for all of you. So if you need credit assistance, we can help you with that. If you need down payment assistance, we can help with that. If you need to figure out when you should be able to purchase, we can help you with that. What Keller Mortgage doesn't do, what our one of our actually favorite lenders, Jared Herbofsky, does is he has a fantastic app that he can give to you that will walk you through the entire in and out process of how we're going to get that payment to be exactly what your current rent is or even lower than that. So we want to make sure that we're getting you in front of the right lender that is going to be able to help you out. So make sure you communicate with us when it comes time to that. So RK, tell us a little bit about understanding mortgages and about our partner lenders.
Yes. Okay. So you did mention a couple of them. I definitely want to give a shout out to some of our other ones. I think I saw Paul Lamnatos in here, one of our investor specialists, so hard money. Rich is actually here in the Zoom too. So shout out to Rich, our upstairs neighbor. Jared is always out there, Jared Rabovsky. Having a lender and choosing a lender is not really a one size fits all decision, just like choosing your real estate agent. So that's why we have multiple people that we work with, and these are trusted and vetted lenders. Now, I'm not going to go out here and recommend you drive to your Bank of America and talk to the loan officer over there uh, that we have no experience with. These are all people that we have done multiple deals with, are very, very reputable in this industry. So the first step whenever you choose your lender, just to kind of recap all of this, is to have a conversation with us, because again, it is not one size fits all. Each of our different lenders uh, specialize in different things and have strengths in different areas. So let us get into understanding mortgages. So there's 3 points that we want to get into. Oh, skipping ahead. There's 3 points that we want to get into. So the first one is your down payment. You know, that first payment that you make. Like I mentioned in the beginning from the first question, it ranges 3% to 20%. If you're getting a VA, sometimes even 0%. And it just depends on you. Now, the interest rate, that's the amount you'll have to pay. Like we mentioned, it is going to be close to 3%. That's what we're seeing all around. But it depends on the structure of your loan. The term, most people are going to be getting a 30-year loan for their first loan. However, we know people that are getting 15 years, and you can get a more favorable interest rate. You can even refinance to a 15-year to make it more favorable for your financial situation. But let's get into number one. But before getting into that, let's go over that one important acronym that we talk about. That's that PITI. So it's an acronym for the components that comprise of your total monthly mortgage payment. Most people will come up to us and say, "Hey, I want my mortgage to be, $1,000, right?" Sometimes, don't laugh at me. Yeah, don't laugh at me. Sometimes most people will be considering that to just be their principal and their interest. They're not including the taxes and insurance. So sometimes it could be, hey, it's actually going to be 1,400. There are a ton of mortgage calculators out there, and we've looked at all of them. And honestly, on the first page, you're going to see a ton of them just being the principal and interest. So it's important that we talk about your PITI, your taxes and insurance, so that you can calculate your total monthly payments that come out of your pocket. Now, moving on to the next slide. um, it's important that we create a budget. So once you've really narrowed down that PITI, what you want to pay on a monthly basis, creating a budget around it is the most important thing. Now, I actually just sat down with Francis to discuss what our budget's going to look like. But we, like Kai mentioned, we do have to work backwards. What do we want our monthly payment to look like? What are we going to buy in a house? Once you've decided that, it'll be easy to focus on these 3 items: identifying your expenses, determining that amount that you can comfortably spend on a home, and making those simple changes around that number that you found for yourself. You're going to find a ton of simple budget worksheets on consumer.gov. We have a ton. I'm a huge spreadsheet person, so feel free to ask us, and we're happy to just work through that exercise of building a budget towards that path to home ownership. Now, let's talk about down payment, the number one thing. It's important we discuss this. Down payment truly depends on you and your financial needs, like I mentioned. The first step, again, being understanding of what you're comfortable with coming up with upfront. So from 3 to 20% is usually what we're seeing. In some cases, let's say you go for 20%. That can save you on your monthly expenses, mainly the PMI, which is the private mortgage insurance. At 20% down, you can save hundreds a month because of this. I believe it's close to about 0.8% of your loan. Now, again, you don't always have to pay 20%. In fact, most people don't. As Kai discussed above, most cases, it's still going to be much better to buy even if you're going at a lower down payment than to continue renting because you're paying into your own pocket. We have a ton of programs that'll allow you to have within the 3.5% range, 5% range, down payment assistance. So it really depends on you, but it's important that we have the conversation with us and our lender so that way we can narrow it down to align with that monthly budget of yours. So maintaining your pre-approval. So there's 3 things that we ask for you to not do whenever you get the pre-approval. Number 1, big purchases. What I'm talking about, let's say you're buying a house, you're approved, and all of a sudden you want to buy a car. Hold that urge until after you buy the house. Buying a car, making any big purchases, even something like furniture, can affect your pre-approval letter and may sometimes even push you over the limit where you might not get approved for that house that you're already under contract with. Um, Along with purchasing those big purchases like furniture, cars, we also don't want to open many large credit lines. Another thing, I've had this happen before. We have actually had all three of these happen before. Um, but we don't want any major job changes in between. So if you're looking at a transition at work, if you're looking to purchase a car, if you're looking to open cards, just don't do it. Protect your down payment. Have a conversation with us first, and we are going to constantly remind you not to make these big purchases so that way we can protect your down payment. And most importantly, whenever you're in a home, we want to make sure that you protect your earnest money whenever you are purchasing it, because we don't want you to have to forfeit any fees or expenses. All right, Kai. So step 3, finding a home.
Yeah, so finding your home is definitely the fun part. A lot of people love doing this, just like looking at homes online. We want to go over some of the ins and outs of this. Whenever we meet and visit together, you will complete a questionnaire that we have, and we'll chat about what it is that you're looking for so that we can completely understand your wants and needs. After all, you don't want to fall in love with a house that you cannot afford or one that doesn't meet your needs. And you do want to make sure that you're looking in areas that you can actually actively purchase in. We found that the first few houses tend to be more about education on the market rather than the actual home that you want. However, there are some cases where people see the first house and it is love at first sight. If you do have our KW or HAR apps or receive our emails about our neighborhoods that you're interested in, then you're already one step ahead.
And again, our app is a great place to start your home search. There you can search by city, by zip code, landmark, neighborhood, and more. And if you see a house that you love, you can share that directly with us through the app and we can discuss that together. I also see a lot of questions about our presentation. If you have not received the presentation, feel free to comment with your email address so that way we can get that over to you.
Fantastic. Now, our app is free, but that plug keeps the lights on. So there we go. So RK, who has been looking at houses?
Yes. Who has been looking at houses? Of course, everyone looks at houses, right? Even if you're not buying a house, you're looking on Zillow. There's a ton of real estate sites and apps out there, um, but a lot of sites and apps are missing many available properties, and sometimes, a lot of the times actually, the information may be out of date. Some of the homes have already sold, the prices are not always accurate. So again, we will link you up with a portal where you can see directly into the MLS, the multiple listing service. It keeps accurate information and up-to-date inventory of all the properties on the market. You'll see what goes under contract, what comes up within a few minutes. Where if you're looking on a couple of sites that I won't name, Zillow, Redfin, um, it may be a week late on some of those occasions. So there's an open house app, and we even have mortgage calculators built into this. So again, if you guys are interested in the link, and like Constance said, the presentation, we are going to provide all of this. So be sure to send us your email. If you guys have registered through Zoom, then we already have your info. If you're watching us on Facebook or watching this afterwards on Facebook, then just be sure to message us directly so that way we can send you all of this information, like our presentation, this video, and our apps. All right. So your agent is looking out for a home. There's two different sides to the coin, right? What you'll be looking for, what we'll be looking for. Now, what you'll be looking for is honestly the layout of the home, whether it fits your lifestyle, how it compares to your current living situation. The main thing is that we'll be looking at something differently, and that's making sure that your investment is going to be protected. So we're going to look at how the home compares to other comparable homes that are of similar size, layout, value. We're also going to be looking at potential resale value because um, on average, people are going to be living in their homes about 5 years. It's actually just shrinking more and more down, and people are starting to move sooner than the past. So it's important that we look at potential resale value, even if you tell us, RK, you are dragging me out of this house feet first, I'm going to die here. Because it's important to at least know that you'll be able to resell that in the future. And then also, we're going to be looking at the big ticket items. So anyone that's in here, I know some people have already bought houses with here that are watching this. You see me down on my knees, looking at the AC, climbing up, climbing up the attic, looking at the manufacture dates. That's what I'm doing. You see me slamming doors shut. Me and Kai, our goal is to really make sure that you're going to dodge a bullet, you're aware of any flags, so that way you're making a good investment, so that you all, as you're searching, can make the top priority whether it is the right for your lifestyle, right home for your lifestyle, and as well as the right fit for you and your family.
So, I get a lot of questions about the pros and cons of looking at either condos or townhouses. A lot of you know that I love condos. I am very just turn the key and leave, have them walk my dogs, do all this stuff. But there are pros and cons to both of those, as opposed to single family detached homes. Often, first time home buyers typically choose these options as a way to get into the market on something that they can afford. We're just now starting to see luxury condos come up. So we'll kind of put those on the side because those don't really apply to these types of concerns. Um, Condos typically have a lower cost per square foot. They don't have any yard work. They don't really have much maintenance at all because you're paying for that. Amenities, things like swimming pools and playgrounds are there, and you also have a very tight knit community that often stays for a very, very long time. However, some of the cons, you do have shared ownership. So, unfortunately, if several of the neighbors decide that they want to paint the entire building purple, well, you might get outvoted, and now the entire building is purple. So, you may not like that. You do have only the ownership of the space inside of your unit and inside of a fractional ownership of the space inside of the building. So you can't really make too many changes except what's inside of your unit. And even then, you do have to abide by HOA guidelines. Homeowners fees and shared maintenance costs also exist. So if you are getting some of those luxury condos, some of the newer condominium buildings, typically those HOA fees are very high. It is very expensive to maintain buildings these days. I get a lot of people that ask, well, why does it cost so much? Like, because concrete is not cheap anymore, unfortunately. And then you are managed by a board of directors, typically who you have elected in. Those are usually residents or third party people as well. And then you're governed by rules around pets, vehicles, more noise, etc. Wooden buildings typically will not let you have dogs or cats, even sometimes. Concrete buildings will let you have both, but then you have to run the risk of fluctuating air conditioning costs and maintenance costs because concrete buildings are more expensive to maintain. So there are those kinds of pros and cons with that. RK, tell us a little bit about new construction. We get a lot of people asking about those.
Yes, we've actually sold a ton of new construction this year. So let's go over some pros, let's go over some cons. A lot of the pros, it's obviously new. So new, nice, shiny. When you buy a new construction home, you're going to have a ton of warranties. So what I mean by that is you'll have a 1 year warranty on a majority of the workmanship of the property. You'll have a 2 year warranty on appliances, and you'll have a 10 year structural warranty to ensure that the home is in working order. You have the ability to pick your lot, pick features and design. You most of the times have a locked in price. There's not really too much negotiating off of a new construction, but you don't have to play that game of let's offer this and then they'll come up and they'll offer this. It's a very clear price of if I'm going to build and buy this house and I know what the numbers are. Sometimes there's going to be pretty good deals. Towards the end of the year, you're going to find some really solid deals for builders that are going to be closing out towards the end of the year and trying to get properties off their books. Those are some of the the pros, the pros. But there are also some not so good things about new construction. So features to add to price. So what we're talking about is some builders will say that hardwood floors are an upgrade, or sod grass in the backyard are an upgrade, and things start to add up whenever you're buying a home. So that's one thing that is a con, unfortunately that's something that a lot of the times you'll pay for. Now, another thing is that the future of the neighborhood is uncertain. Some areas where they're building, you are one of the first people that is moving into an area. So there's not really much around. You're not going to have much commercial retail space around you in some new neighborhoods. So it's kind of a guessing game, because there really isn't anything to compare it to. So it can be a positive, but being uncertain about it is one of the cons. Again, a lot of the times it can be in an outlying area. If you're buying new construction, there's a ton of really nice new construction inside the loop, and honestly, we represent a couple of them. Shout out to JC with Men Pro. Uh, Now, there are some that are going to be outside of town that are going to be around the median price point. As you come in, it is going to get a little bit more expensive for new construction. Um, Again, some may not have new amenities nearby if you're in those outlying areas. And then finally, this is actually, I would consider to be one of the toughest cons, and that is not knowing a firm closing date. Now, we can't always lay the blame on a builder. um, there are a lot of things that come into building a home, and there's a lot of red tape, bureaucracy, making sure that things get recorded in permits. These things take time. And, building a home, they'll say it'll take anywhere from 3 months to 8 months, because that's really how long it takes. And a lot of builders are at the whim of the city, at the whim of inspectors that they're not too sure are going to come on time, because we can't control all those factors. So not having a firm closing date is something you might run into if you do have a new construction and building from the ground up. So now that we've gone over finding the home, let's go over making an offer and negotiating. So you found your home and you're ready to go. There's three things that we're going to be going over to help you determine a fair price to offer on the home. We'll provide a comparable market analysis, or what we refer to as a CMA, of other properties that are very similar to the home that you're offering, so that way you can make an appropriate decision and you don't feel that you're overpaying for a home, or we won't run into any appraisal issues in the future. Now, the next thing are the terms, and we'll have to break those terms down a little bit, but it's going over the 6 basic categories of what terms we're talking about. Uh, the first term that we're talking about is going to be the schedule. When are you going to close? That's one term. I'm going to close 30 days from now, 45 days from now. Conveyances, what appliances, what decor, furniture is going to come with the home, or what's going to go. The commission, who pays the commission? In the state of Texas, it's typically going to be the seller, but these things are all negotiable. Now, closing costs, that's another thing. Who's going to pay what closing costs? There are some costs that are going to be typical to be paid by a buyer. There's some costs that are going to be typical to be paid by a seller. However, everything is negotiable, so we'll lay those out. Home warranty, if the seller will provide one or if they won't provide one. Like we mentioned, builders will typically provide you a 1-year, 2-year, and a 10-year warranty for different items. So that's the case that a majority will provide you one. But in resale situations, not everyone's going to provide you a home warranty. And then finally, the last term that we're going to go over is the earnest money. Most of the time, what you'll be turning in for an earnest money is going to be 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying 300,000, most of the time you're going to deposit $3,000 to the title company. The final thing that we'll be going over whenever we offer and are planning on negotiating are certain contingencies. These are conditions that allow you to opt out of a deal if a house has a problem, or there are any other factors that would limit you from buying a house. So let's go for an example. Let's say we found a house, fell in love, submitted an offer, went over both of those top two. And unfortunately, during an inspection, we found that the foundation had some issues. Now, upon receiving that foundation report, we aim to negotiate. Now, you have contingencies in place in the event that the seller is not willing to negotiate as much as you'd like. Those contingencies will allow you to pull out of a contract without any negative legal implications that you would be tied to purchasing that home or tied to losing your earnest money deposit. So you have those contingencies and a couple of other ones that we can get into whenever we start sitting down and discussing buying a home. So, Kai, you want to go into some of the inspection and repair items?
Yes, so inspection and repair is definitely my favorite part because it is the most stressful part for us, but it is the most fun part whenever it comes to negotiations as well. There is absolutely no such thing as a perfect home. There will always be some repairs that are needed, whether that be a brand new construction home or a resale home, from leaky faucets to more costly issues. You'll find this out with a proper home inspection, and we will always negotiate the repairs as needed, whatever is in what we call the surgical plan for your home purchasing needs. We always recommend home inspectors for you to hire, but you can obviously choose whoever you want. Um, During your contract period, we have what's called the option period. We will help you through this inspection process and consult with you to determine what negotiation strategy we will use. Your option period is usually 7 to 10 days after the offer is executed. During this time, we will make sure that we're doing things like ordering the appraisal, getting your title information ready, but most importantly, getting that inspection done on the very first day of the transaction. We want that inspection back the next day, so that way we can go ahead and start negotiating around anything that needs to be repaired, corrected, or replaced. Property inspections will always expose a lot of structural things and hidden issues as well. Do not be afraid of your home inspection. Don't sweat the small things. You will notice quickly the inspectors will put any and everything on that report. Small stuff that we know will not affect the home's life span or ability to function as a structurally sound property, we will often move away from those things. If you start getting really nitpicky about small little things like, oh, there's a paint crack or the handle on the door jiggles a little bit, the seller will almost certainly tell you to just walk. They'll just say, oh, that, just get out. We don't want to have to deal with, $20 here and there, $10 here, there, $15 for this broken thing. But if there are things that we're going to focus on, like the HVAC systems, making sure that your air conditioning, especially in Houston, is functioning properly. That can potentially be thousands of dollars. That is something we want to negotiate. Roofs, foundations, things like that. Um, Faded or worn shingles, occasionally we'll look into those, but we don't want to hold up the entire transaction because of a single tile is cracked. That can be replaced later. Mold, termite issues, we will always focus on those things. Missing shingles or worn shingles, we will focus on those for sure. Plumbing, electrical problems, water stains in the ceilings, floors, walls. We will see things that you did not even know were there. Your inspector will see things that nobody even knew were there, and you'll be like, what? This beautiful house is actually made of tape. So we're going to go ahead and go in and back out of this contract. So we will make sure that you're nice and safe throughout the entire transaction, especially during the inspection period. RK, tell us about this next part. You're getting so close.
Yes. So close and being a homeowner. So it's not actually the last step. There's a few things that we wanted to address and go over. So let's go over these things real quick. Making sure that you are budgeting. Notice I got all the budgeting slides. But making sure that you're budgeting. Now, working with us and working with our preferred lenders, they'll make sure that you are aware of these items that we have here on this page. Make sure you take a look at it. We'll talk about it, but some of you guys are not from Houston, so we might not be representing you. So just remember that there are going to be additional costs throughout the transaction before you even close, that you wouldn't really anticipate. You would have to pay for those inspections, which will be $300, $400, $500 sometimes. You'll have to pay for a survey, other miscellaneous costs, option money. That totals out to be about 1 to 3%, but just be prepared to budget those. Okay. Now, now we can kind of get ready to close, right? Doing a final walkthrough is the last thing that you'll do before you go to the table and sign. We'll make sure that we have a final walkthrough and the house is exactly what you'd like it to be, and they didn't bust any walls out while they were moving all their furniture. I have a funny story that just this year, we had done a final walkthrough and come to find out that there was a patch in the carpet that was covered by furniture. Now, it's unfortunate that we had to find out the exact same day of closing, but it's good that we did find out. And it's good that we do final walkthroughs. And we always recommend that we do that because sometimes sellers are not going to be the nicest. And sometimes they just have a lot of things on their mind that they forget, which is unfortunate. Now, we ended up correcting that issue and made sure that they have a nice, beautiful house at the end of it. So we signed and closed, but we'll be doing a final walkthrough before you guys make that. Now, getting into the closing time. This is a reason to celebrate. It's like every moment is a reason to celebrate because it is a long process, as you guys can see, and we're going to simplify that throughout. But we're just trying to condense it all in one place. That's why we got the videos so that you guys can review this as we go along. Either way, closing. These are the things that you will need to bring. Three things. Three things. Certified funds or a wire to closing. Now, you will be disclosed 3 days prior to closing day the amount that you'll need. Now, sometimes it'll be the last day, sometimes it'll be a day before, sometimes it'll be the day of. But truly, we want you to know the true numbers at least a few days so you can make preparations to go to the bank or talk to your bank about sending a wire. Next is evidence of insurance. You would already be prepared with that with your lender when you work with us. Um, this last one, I had to add this last one specifically um, because valid ID, and that is a valid photo ID in the state of Texas. Funny story, we did have a scenario where we came to the table with an expired driver's license. So we had to push closing and go to the DPS and get a new license. Either way, just make sure your IDs are valid and it's a photo ID. This is what you'll get in return: the settlement statement, a transfer of clean title, so that way there are no other people that can claim this is my house. It'll be clean and clear, and you are the only owner on that. And then the most important thing, the keys to your new home, and then also your picture with the big ass key. So next thing, this is important because after you buy your house, it is a very exciting thing. It's a major accomplishment for many people. You get to feel the pride of home ownership, whether it's your first home or your large dream home. Keep in mind that we are going to be your resource throughout the whole process, and it's important that we're here to help protect your investment. So there's four things to consider whenever we help you buy your house. The first thing is going to be maintaining your home appropriately, performing routine maintenance on your home systems like your HVAC, like your plumbing, like general landscaping, your roof. It's important because if you don't do general maintenance on your home, that the repairs in the future are going to cost you a lot more. Now, another thing is to make sure that you're keeping an eye for certain issues that may arise in the future. Um, Even if you're buying a brand new house, no home is perfect. Let's be honest, no home is perfect. So making sure that you're aware of what to look for, which are signs of wear and tear and general leaks, shifting in your foundation. These are things that can happen. And if you catch them very early on, it'll make sure that you save money and make sure that these things don't turn into something much, much bigger. Whenever you buy your home and whenever you're doing your repairs and general maintenance, keep a receipt. All right, keep a file of all of the receipts for your repairs. The most successful home sales that we have is someone that has kept a log of all of your receipts. Now, I'm not saying that it is a necessity, but if you're able to say, hey, I repaired my foundation in 2018, I changed my AC in 2019, here is the contractor that did it. It makes things a lot more comfortable as a buyer, because if you put yourself in that position, if someone had done that for you, you would feel confident that someone is taking care of that house and that you are most likely not running into a trap. Finally, you can consider holding a home warranty so that you don't have to take the burden on of making those maintenance items and those repairs yourself. A home warranty costs close to $400 to $700 a year, and you'll be able to just call them for any general visits to see if there's any repairs that need to be done. So that's it.
Yes, there's no better time to get started than now. Let's see, do we have any more questions from you guys? I do see someone that asked, how much is it going to cost for them to for us to offer our services to them?
Nothing. Our fees, just like we were saying previously, are paid by the seller. When they are not paid by the seller, then those are things that we discuss later on. But typically, and honestly, I guess we could just straight up say we really don't ever ask you for the commission. Whatever we get paid is always negotiated on the other side of the transaction. It does not cost you anything to work with us. That's just our agreement that we have within our own brokerage. There are some companies that will charge back a commission if it doesn't get earned by the seller. We are not one of those companies. So if the seller tells us we're getting $50, well, I guess that's what we're getting, unless otherwise negotiated and discussed. But that's just something that we do for you. I don't think we've ever run into a situation where the commission had to be paid by the buyer. So, I mean, as far as we know, it hasn't happened to us yet. So nothing.
Yeah, and to add on to that, people ask if it'll cost to just have a consultation, to sit down and just discuss what their needs. We recommend you to come and just sit down with us, even if you are a year out, to just have a conversation. And that is all for free. So don't be afraid to call me, call Kai, call Constance and say, hey, I really want to talk about my situation about buying a house in December next year. It's not too early. We can have that conversation and it's free. So that's a good question.
Anything else, Constance, that we have up there?
It doesn't look like we have any more questions, but like we said earlier, we did send over an email with our presentation. So if you did not get that, please let us know. Feel free to email me. My name is Constance. My email is constance@communitywarriors.com.
Fantastic. And then finally, our commitment to you, just always remember that we're ready. When you're ready to get started on this journey, we want to make sure that you know that we would be honored to accompany you along that. Our team will always commit to making sure that you are educated about the market, analyze what your wants and needs are, and then guide you in the correct direction of the homes that meet your criteria. We also will be coordinating work with other professionals, so whether that be the lenders, the inspectors, appraisers, etc. And then we will always negotiate on your behalf. Common misconception, we are not in here so that we can make the money. We're here to help you buy a house. We're always on the side that you are on. We're always having your best interest in mind. And then we're also here to solve any issues that may arise in the future should anything happen. And then last but not least,
don't forget to reach out to our app. The app was sent to you through a link. Make sure you register so that way you can start your home search now.
All right, so here's mine and Kai's information. Constance just mentioned her info if you have any questions for the three of us. That wraps up today's home buyer webinar. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. I know it's quite long, so thank you for sticking it through. That commitment will really show in the future whenever you guys make the decision to buy your home. We're confident that this investment of time will pay off in the long run. So just remember, if you need anything or have any real estate questions, just give us a call first. We're here and no question is too silly to ask. We're here to educate as many people out there about the goods and even bads of this business. So final notes from me, at least. I don't know if anyone's got some. You will again get a copy of today, or well, a recorded version of today's webinar, along with our free buyer guide and links to our apps. So be sure to reach out to us if you have not registered on the Zoom link.
All right.
Anything else, everyone?
It was nice seeing you all this evening. I have a showing to get to. So if you have any questions, just as RK was saying, let us know either in the comments to this video, or you can always message us directly or give us a call, and we will always be there to answer those questions for you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.